The day I died wasn't supposed to be special. No thunder, no tragic music, just me, and the sound of rain hitting the pavement. I remember closing my eyes and thinking, so this is how it ends. But when I opened them again, I wasn't dead, at least not in the way I expected, because when I looked down, I was sitting in a wheelchair. My reflection in the nearby window wasn't mine anymore. Gone was my familiar face. Instead, a stranger stared back. Handsome, maybe too handsome, with pale skin and tired eyes. And that was when I noticed the name on the hospital chart beside me, Lucas Miller. The name hit me like a bucket of cold water. Lucas Miller, the spoiled heir of a fallen empire, a character from a CEO romance novel I'd once read, and worse, the man who dies in the prologue. I blinked, my brain spinning. Did I reincarnate into him? Before I could even process it, the door opened, and she walked in. Olivia Summers, the woman I once admired from behind the pages. In the story, she was the Ice Queen, flawless, unshakable, beautiful beyond words. And right now, she looked exactly like that. Tall, graceful, her long black hair falling in soft waves over a white blazer. Every movement she made carried authority and distance. She didn't even glance at me as she set a folder on the table. "Lucas," she said calmly, her voice low and elegant. "Ethan's back. We need to divorce." I froze. My mind screamed. Ethan? The male lead of the novel. Her old flame. The one she truly loved. I looked down at the paper she handed me. At first, I expected something cruel. Maybe she'd kick me out with nothing. But then I saw it. Right beside the word alimony was a number that almost stopped my heart. $1,000. 8 million. I blinked, then blinked again. In my old life, I never even saw that much money. Not in my dreams. "Are you serious?" I muttered. Olivia frowned slightly, mistaking my shock for heartbreak. "I'm sorry," she said, her tone softening a fraction. "It's for the best." But inside I wasn't heartbroken. I was ecstatic. I was about to become rich. Without hesitation, I grabbed the pen and signed my name. Her eyes widened. "You're signing it? Just like that?" "Of course," I said cheerfully. 8 million reasons to move on. I stood, and for the first time, noticed something strange. My legs didn't hurt. I wasn't supposed to be able to walk yet. She gasped softly. You're standing? Didn't you break your leg?" I smiled. Guess it healed. Miracles happen, right? For the first time since she entered, her perfect composure cracked. A flicker of confusion, maybe even fear, crossed her face. That night, I sat in Lucas's penthouse, looking out over the glowing city. In the book, this was where he used to drink himself into oblivion, pathetic and heartbroken over the woman who never loved him. But not this time. This time, I wasn't Lucas Miller. I was me, a man who'd already lost everything once. And I wasn't about to waste my second chance crying over someone else's love story. Still, I couldn't deny the irony. A few hours ago I'd died. Now, I was a rich man, with a broken marriage, a working pair of legs, and a future that didn't belong to me. I took a sip of wine and muttered to myself, "Not bad, universe. Not bad at all." The next morning I went downstairs for breakfast and froze. Olivia was there, and she wasn't alone. Across from her sat Ethan, the same Ethan who was supposed to be the hero of the story. Handsome, confident, the kind of man who looked like he'd never lost anything in his life. Their hands brushed on the table, fingers almost intertwined. When she saw me, Olivia's hand jerked away, guilt flickering across her face. Ethan smirked. "Still clinging on, huh? Haven't signed the papers yet?" I calmly took a sip of milk. "I signed them yesterday," he blinked, thrown off. Then his smirk returned. "You're pathetic." A moment later, his hand slipped, and milk splashed all over his designer shirt. He gasped dramatically. Olivia shot to her feet. "Lucas, what are you doing?" "What?" I said, honestly confused. "He did it himself." "Apologize." I stared at her. "Apologize? For gravity?" Ethan gave her a heroic little smile. "It's fine, Olivia. Don't be mad. He didn't mean it. Her anger flared hotter. Lucas, get out, fine by me. I grabbed a sandwich and an egg, muttering gladly. Then I walked out, thinking only one thing. The sooner I leave, the sooner I get that money. The city lights flickered below me that night, like stars that had fallen and gotten trapped between skyscrapers. I leaned against the balcony railing of Lucas's penthouse, breathing in the cold air. Divorced, free, and soon to be $8 million richer. Not bad for a guy who just died a few days ago, but something inside me refused to settle. Maybe it was the way Olivia looked at me earlier, shocked, uncertain, like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Or maybe it was the part of me that still wondered what kind of person Lucas had been before I took over his life. Good evening. Sir, came a soft voice behind me. I turned to see an older man, Lucas's butler. Mr. Gray. He had kind eyes and a posture that spoke of decades of loyalty. Evening, I said. You can drop the formalities, just call me Lucas. He gave a hesitant nod. As you wish, sir. Dinner will be served shortly. Shall I invite Madame Olivia? I froze for a second. Madame Olivia, right. In this world she was still my wife, at least until the divorce finalized. No need, I said quickly. She's probably busy with Ethan. A flicker of disappointment passed over his face. Young Master Lucas, he said carefully. Forgive me for speaking out of turn, but Madame Olivia isn't as heartless as she appears. I arched an eyebrow. Really? You sure we're talking about the same woman? He smiled faintly. People see what they want to see, but you look at her differently tonight. Almost like you've been given a second chance. His words hit deeper than I expected. A second chance. He had no idea how right he was. Meanwhile, in her study across the city, Olivia stared at the signed divorce papers. Lucas's signature glared up at her. Bold, confident, final. She had expected a fight, begging, anger, anything but that calm acceptance. Her reflection in the glass window looked uncertain. Why did it bother her so much? Wasn't this what she wanted? She reached for her phone, her finger hovering over Ethan's name. He was supposed to be her future, the man she'd once loved before her marriage became a cage, and yet. For some reason, the thought of Lucas's nonchalant smile kept flashing in her mind, that strange, almost amused look he gave her when he said, 8 million reasons to move on. She whispered under her breath, What happened to you, Lucas Miller? The next day I went to the company building, the empire Lucas's family once owned. The employees whispered as I walked in, their eyes filled with curiosity and pity. Isn't that Mr. Miller? I thought he was in the hospital. Did you hear? Madame Olivia's divorcing him for Ethan Reed. Poor guy. The whole world's laughing at him. I ignored the murmurs and went straight to the elevator. When the doors opened, I almost bumped into her. Olivia. She looked different in daylight. Still flawless, still distant. But there was something softer around her eyes. Lucas, she said, surprised. What are you doing here? Just visiting my old empire, I said casually. Wanted to see what it looks like when it's being handed over to another man. Her expression tightened. That's not fair. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Fair? You handed me divorce papers like they were an invoice. Her jaw clenched. But instead of replying, she simply said, You've changed. I smirked. So I've been told. As I walked past her, I caught a glimpse of something in her eyes. A flicker of regret. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe not. Either way, for the first time since waking up in this world, I realized something important. I wasn't just living Lucas's life. I was rewriting it. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Ethan had taken her to dinner, but the conversation felt hollow. He talked about investments, about their future. But her mind kept drifting back to Lucas, his calm tone. His easy smile, his refusal to fight for her. It should have made her happy. Instead, it made her uneasy. Olivia, Ethan said, pulling her back to the moment. Once your divorce finalizes, we can make everything official. She nodded automatically, but her chest tightened. After dinner, she sat in her car for a long time, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. Why does it feel like I lost something I didn't even know I wanted? The next morning, I walked into a small cafe I'd noticed on the corner near the penthouse. The barista, a cheerful girl with bright eyes, handed me a cup of black coffee. "You're Lucas Miller, right?" she asked curiously. "The one on the magazines?" I groaned. "That's one way to put it." "Well, rumor says you're getting divorced." She grinned, teasing. "Congratulations, I guess." I couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, something like that." For the first time in years, or maybe lifetimes, I felt normal. No board meetings, no staged smiles. Just coffee, sunlight, and peace. That's when my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "Hello? Lucas?" Olivia's voice. Even through the phone, it was calm, smooth. But there was a tremor beneath it. "I need to see you," she said. "It's urgent," I raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. You want me to sign the final copy?" "No," she said quietly. "It's about Ethan." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. It wasn't business. It wasn't cold. It was fear. The cafe bell chimed softly as I stepped outside, the morning sun cutting through the mist like golden glass. Olivia's call still echoed in my mind. The unease in her voice was something I'd never heard before. For a woman as controlled and calculated as Olivia Summers, fear was rare. And now, it was directed at Ethan. We met at a private restaurant downtown, the kind where silence cost more than the food. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with a cup of untouched tea. When our eyes met, it felt strange. The same woman who once threw me out of our house now looked fragile, like the world she'd built was beginning to crack. "Lucas," she said quietly, "thank you for coming." I took a seat across from her. "You said it was urgent. What's going on?" She hesitated, her hands trembling slightly as she passed me her phone. On the screen was a series of photos. Ethan, in a dim hotel lobby, his arm around another woman. "She's an investor's daughter," Olivia whispered. "He said it was business, but—" Her voice broke, just for a second, before she straightened again. I was a fool to think he'd changed. I studied her face. For once, the proud CEO mask had fallen away. No pretense, no arrogance, just a woman realizing she'd been betrayed. "So," I said softly, the mighty Olivia Summers finally got played. Her eyes shot up, anger flashing briefly before fading into guilt. "I know I deserve that," she said. "After everything I did to you." I leaned back, folding my arms. "You're right. You do." For a moment, the silence between us was suffocating. Then she whispered almost to herself, "Lucas, were you ever really happy with me?" That question caught me off guard. Happy? The old Lucas had loved her with everything he had, and it destroyed him. But me, the man sitting here now? I met her gaze and said honestly, "Not really. But I think I wanted to be." Her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to say something, but the waiter arrived, breaking the moment. The rest of the meal passed quietly, filled with words we didn't say. That evening I returned home, but Olivia's expression stayed with me. The way she looked when she realized Ethan wasn't her fairy tale after all. The next morning, headlines exploded across every business page. Ethan Reed exposed. Insider trading scandal rocks Reed Corporation. I nearly spit out my coffee. That was fast. Within hours, Olivia's company's shares rose while Ethan's empire started to crumble. He had betrayed her, used her connections, and now karma had arrived in style. I chuckled to myself. Guess miracles do happen. Then my phone buzzed again, a message from Olivia. "Can we talk?" We met at the rooftop of the Summers Group building. The night sky stretched endlessly above us, city lights shimmering below like fallen stars. She was standing near the edge, her hair swaying in the breeze. When she turned, her eyes met mine, not with coldness this time, but something else. Something almost human. "Ethan's been arrested," she said softly. "I saw," I replied. "Guess love didn't save him after all." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "No, it never does." I walked closer. "So what now, Olivia? What happens when the man you gave everything for turns out to be worse than the one you left? She flinched at my words, but didn't deny them. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe I was wrong about everything. Her honesty surprised me. This woman, once untouchable, was finally breaking through the shell she'd built around herself. I took a deep breath. Look, I'm not the same Lucas you used to know. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? I smiled faintly. Let's just say I've had a change in perspective. She frowned, clearly confused, but before she could press further, I continued. Whatever happened between us, it's done. I've moved on. You should too. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then quietly, she said, maybe. I don't want to. Her voice trembled. And in that single moment, I realized something terrifying. She meant it. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep again. She sat by her window, staring out at the city, the soft hum of traffic below. Everywhere she looked, she saw memories of Lucas, his smile, his calmness, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. How did she never notice that before? She picked up her phone more than once, typing messages she couldn't bring herself to send. Finally, she whispered into the darkness. Lucas. I'm sorry, but he wasn't there to hear it. Days turned into weeks. The divorce finalized, and the $8 million hit my account. I should have been thrilled. I'd won freedom, wealth, peace, but instead of celebrating, I found myself sitting at the same cafe again, staring at my untouched coffee. Mr. Gray walked in, his usual calm presence filling the air. Sir, he said gently. Madam Olivia hasn't been to work in a week. I blinked. What? She's been staying home. The media. They've been cruel since the scandal broke. She lost several contracts. For some reason, that news hit harder than I expected. I told myself I didn't care, that she was just the ex-wife of a man whose life I was borrowing. But deep down, something twisted in my chest. Maybe it wasn't Lucas who still cared. Maybe it was me. That evening, I found myself standing outside her house. I didn't even know why I came. Curiosity, pity, or something else. When the door opened, she stood there, eyes swollen, makeup smudged. The perfect CEO was gone. What stood before me was just a woman, broken and human. Lucas, she whispered, voice trembling. Why are you here? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe I just wanted to see if you were okay. She gave a bitter smile. Do I look okay to you? I didn't answer. Instead, I handed her a small paper bag, the same steamed buns and soy milk she once brought me months ago. Her eyes widened. You remembered? I shrugged. You're not the only one with a good memory. For a moment, we stood in silence, two people who once destroyed each other now standing in the ashes, unsure what came next. The rain came without warning. Soft at first, a drizzle that kissed the window glass, then harder, like the sky itself had decided to cry for her. Olivia sat on the couch, the untouched food beside her now cold. The TV played faintly in the background, news reports of Ethan's sentencing, of the empire he'd destroyed with his own greed. She should have felt relief, victory, justice. But all she felt was emptiness. Because the one person she'd once looked down upon, the man she'd broken, had moved on without her. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old pier, 9 p.m. Her heart skipped. There was no name. But she knew. Only one person would pick such a place. The pier where Lucas had once told her he'd loved her. Years ago, under a sky full of stars. Without a second thought, she grabbed her coat and left. The sea wind was cold that night, brushing against my face as I stood beneath the broken streetlight. It flickered faintly, reflecting against the dark waves below. I heard the sound of heels before I saw her, sharp, steady, but hesitant. Olivia stopped a few feet away, rainwater glistening on her hair. You called me? She asked softly. Yeah. I turned to face her. You still remember this place? She nodded slowly. How could I forget? You once said this was where you'd build me a house one day. I chuckled quietly. Sounds like something the old me would have said. She looked down, her voice trembling. The old you loved me, and I— She stopped herself, biting her lip. I waited, but she said nothing. So I spoke instead. Olivia, I'm not the man you used to know. I'm not the Lucas who begged for your love. I've changed, I know, she whispered. That's what hurts the most. The wind howled between us, carrying away words we couldn't say. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. I was so blind, Lucas. I thought power and success mattered more than love. I pushed you away because I was afraid to need you. I said nothing. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. But when you left, everything went quiet. The house, the mornings, the nights. It all felt empty. Her eyes met mine, soft, vulnerable, human. Can we start over? For a moment, I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe we could go back to the beginning, rewrite everything. But I'd died once already. And this life wasn't meant to repeat old mistakes. I smiled gently. You don't need me to start over, Olivia. You just need to forgive yourself. Tears welled in her eyes. And you? She whispered. Have you forgiven me? I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I think I have. She smiled sadly. Then that's enough. A tear rolled down her cheek as she looked at the ocean. I hope whoever you are now, you find happiness. I watched her walk away, slow steps fading into the rain. For the first time, I didn't feel pain or anger, just peace. The old Lucas had died once because of her. But the man standing here, reborn, stronger, wiser, could finally live because of that death. As the rain fell harder, I whispered to the sea, Goodbye, Olivia. The restaurant was small but full. Laughter and the smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. Order for table 4, someone shouted. I looked up from the counter, my apron dusted with flour, sleeves rolled up. Life was simple now, quiet. I wasn't a CEO or a tragic husband or some background character in someone else's story. I was just Lucas Miller, owner of the Rising Tide Cafe. As I handed a plate to a customer, I heard a familiar laugh from behind me. Still refusing to hire extra help, huh? I turned, and there she was. Ashley Green, the investor who'd helped me open this place. She leaned on the counter, smiling. You look happier these days, I grinned. Maybe because I'm not married to chaos anymore, she laughed. Fair, but you still owe me dinner for investing. Oh? I thought your investment came with free meals for life. Not when the owner forgets to call, she teased. I looked at her, the warmth in her eyes, the sunlight on her face, and for the first time in a long while, my chest didn't ache. Maybe love didn't always look like passion and pain. Maybe sometimes it looked like peace. Later that evening, I walked to the back patio. The sunset painted the sky in gold and rose, and the sound of waves echoed faintly from beyond the hill. A gentle breeze passed by. And for a second, I thought I heard her voice. Lucas, I'm sorry, I smiled to myself. It's okay, Olivia. You were my past. But I looked toward the kitchen, where Ashley was laughing with a customer. She's my future. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I whispered, Thank you for letting me start over. The wind carried the words away, out to the sea, into forever.